Now for the news in detail. In the U.S., the daily death count from coronavirus has dropped to 820 as the country's tally nears 90,000. The global COVID-19 death count has crossed 315,000 with over 4.7 million infections. More on that now in this report.
The curve of coronavirus deaths has seen a downward trend for the last couple of days in the hardest hit regions of the world. While the virus epicenter of the U.S. appears to record lesser deaths, the White House has pinned the blame on the Centers for Disease Control for its delayed response. Meanwhile, New York Governor Andrew Cuomo has applauded the work of healthcare providers.
Per capita, we are doing more than other countries, significantly more. Diagnostic tests by population, New York is 7.1. Italy is second, 4.9. Canada, USA, nationally is doing 3.3. We're double the national average. So thank you to the Department of Health team and everybody who's been working so hard to do that.
Italy and Spain are among a number of European countries that are set to further ease their coronavirus restrictions from today. Public transportation and most businesses will be free to reopen after more than 2 months of nationwide lockdown. But in Egypt, the government says it will halt public transport and impose strict restrictions from May 24th for 6 days during the Eid holidays.
Throughout this time, which is approximately a full 6 days, all commercial shops, malls, restaurants, and entertainment venues will be closed, as well as all beaches and public parks, in order to limit the spread of the virus in all ways possible.
South Korea has reported 15 new COVID-19 cases with signs that the cluster centered on Seoul clubbing district is slowing. China has reported 7 new infections, one of them in the northeastern province of Jilin, where a partial lockdown is in place.
In Pakistan, the death toll from the new coronavirus has jumped to 903 as the country recorded 30 new deaths in the last day. The health ministry says 1,947 more cases were reported, bringing the tally to 42,125. The health ministry said 11,922 patients of coronavirus have recovered so far. It said Punjab has recorded 15,346 infections, Sindh 16,377, and Khyber Pakhtunkhwa 6,061. 2,692 cases have been reported in Balochistan and 997 in the capital Islamabad. Prime Minister Imran Khan is launching the cash dispersal program for workers who have lost their jobs today. The Prime Minister's office said over 3.4 million jobless applications have so far been received through the Asas labor portal. Libya's army says it has captured the key Al-Watia airbase from Khalifa Haftar's LNA forces after 6 years. The victory was announced by the media office of the government-led Burkan al-Ghadab, or the Volcano of Rage operation. Commander Osama al-Juwaili says GNA forces have also taken control of heavy weaponry left behind. The move came after the Libyan army destroyed the LNA's 3 Pantsir-type air defense systems. Al-Watia is seen as a key airbase, second only to Matiga Airport. It was captured in 2014 by Khalifa Haftar, who used it as one of his military headquarters. The governor of Somalia's Mudug region has been killed, along with 3 of his bodyguards, in a suicide car bombing claimed by Al-Shabaab. Security official Musa Ahmed says more casualties are feared. In late March, the governor of Puntland was also killed under similar circumstances. Al-Shabaab, an Al-Qaeda affiliate, was driven out of Mogadishu in 2011 and lost most of its strongholds, but still controls vast swathes of the countryside. Its members have carried out numerous attacks in the capital and seek to overthrow the government in Mogadishu. In Sudan, 2 people have been shot dead by security forces in the capital Khartoum for violating the coronavirus curfew. In a statement, the army said a soldier manning a checkpoint in Al-Daim neighborhood opened fire on 2 people on a rickshaw after they refused to stop. The statement said the soldier has been arrested and an investigation has been launched into the incident. The incident has triggered protests by hundreds of angry youth in the neighborhood. Locals say protesters set tires ablaze, chanting anti-army slogans, and have called for bringing the killer to accountability. Sudan's health authorities have confirmed 105 deaths and more than 2,500 COVID-19 infections. In Afghanistan, 7 people have been killed in a suicide blast near the National Directorate of Security's Special Unit in Ghazni province. Medics say over 40 others have been wounded in the attack. Confirming the blast, the Interior Ministry said a religious center in Ghazni city was attacked. The spokesperson, Tariq Aryan, said details would be shared soon. Claiming responsibility, Taliban spokesperson Zabiullah Mujahid said 56 soldiers have been killed and 42 have been wounded in the blast. In a tweet, Zabiullah said the suicide bomber targeted the military base and barracks in the city. The Taliban say the recent political deal between President Ashraf Ghani and Abdullah is only a repetition of past failures. Yesterday, Ghani and rival Abdullah signed a power-sharing agreement ending months of political impasse. Spokesperson Sohail Shaheen said all sides should focus on the real and sincere solution. Shaheen said the resolution lies in the implementation of the Doha Accord without creating further hurdles. He said the prisoners' release process should be completed and intra-Afghan negotiations should begin soon. Earlier, U.S. envoy Zalmay Khalilzad said Washington welcomes the new power-sharing deal in Afghanistan. Khalilzad said the outline for this power-sharing deal has been in place for 10 weeks. He said both leaders should not repeat mistakes in governance, as now is the time to resolve the conflict. Iran says the United States will soon be expelled from Iraq and Syria. In a video conference, Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei said Americans' actions led to them being abhorred by regional nations. He said Washington is a warmonger. It helps dictatorships, trains terrorists, and supports oppression unconditionally. The Iranian Supreme Leader said American society and its political system are not attractive for the global community today. He said the U.S. is hated because of the behavior of its current officials, including the President and Secretary of State. Last month, the U.S. President Donald Trump said he had instructed the U.S. Navy to fire on any Iranian ships that harass it at sea. After Trump's statement, Revolutionary Guards head Major General Hossein Salami said Iran would destroy U.S. warships. Pakistan has summoned a senior Indian diplomat to register a strong protest over ceasefire violations along the line of control. The Foreign Office said Indian forces resorted to unprovoked firing yesterday, injuring civilians in the Khairatza sector. In a statement, spokesperson Aisha Farooqi said Indian forces have been targeting civilian-populated areas. She said such senseless acts are in clear violation of the 2003 ceasefire understanding and international humanitarian law. She urged India to allow the UN Military Observer Group to play its mandated role as per the UN Security Council resolutions. Spokesperson Aisha Farooqi said India has so far committed 1,081 ceasefire violations in 2020. In India, Asif Iqbal Tanha, an anti-citizenship law protester, has been remanded into judicial custody till May 31st by a Delhi court. Delhi police arrested the 24-year-old JAMIA Millia student on Sunday, accusing him of orchestrating violence in the city. Police said he is a key member of the JAMIA Coordination Committee, which spearheaded protests against the controversial law. He's accused of instigating riots in Jamia Millia Islamia in December last year. They said Tanha is a close associate of Omar Khalid, Sharjeel Imam, and Safura, who had been the key members of anti-CAA protests. Last month, the police booked these activists and students under the stringent Unlawful Activities Prevention Act. Under that draconian law, the arrested can be jailed for up to 7 years. Most of the 83 people killed in nationwide unrest in opposition to the controversial citizenship law are Muslims. U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo has warned China against threats to interfere with the work of U.S. journalists in Hong Kong. In a statement, Pompeo said any decision impinging on Hong Kong's autonomy can affect the U.S. assessment of Hong Kong's status. Pompeo said these journalists are members of a free press and their valuable reporting informs Chinese citizens and the world. Earlier, Pompeo said the State Department was delaying a report to Congress assessing Hong Kong's autonomy under China. In recent months, Washington and Beijing have clashed over journalists working in each other's countries. In March, China expelled American journalists, a month after the U.S. announced it would treat 5 Chinese state-run media entities as foreign embassies. In Canada, a pilot has died and another has been injured after an aerobatic Air Force jet crashed into a residential neighborhood in British Columbia. In a tweet, the Royal Canadian Air Force says the Snowbird jet crashed during a performance to salute public efforts against COVID-19. It said the injuries of the surviving member of the crash are not life-threatening. Witnesses said the pilot managed to eject from the plane with a parachute before the crash. The Snowbirds perform aerobatic stunts for the public, similar to the Red Arrows in the UK and the US Blue Angels. Last year in October, a jet crashed into an uninhabited area before an air show in the U.S. city of Atlanta after the pilot ejected. At least 10 people have died after a boat capsized in the South Kivu province of the Democratic Republic of Congo. Officials say the ship was carrying 23 people, including 5 crew members, 13 of whom were rescued by police and local fishermen. Police said most victims were youth and children who hired the leisure boat for excursion. The fishermen were not very far when the boat capsized and rescued 10 people. Police said the survivors have been taken to hospital. Such accidents are common in the country, with boats often overloaded and lacking life vests. World health leaders are set to seek an independent review into the international response to the COVID-19 pandemic at a meeting this week. Representatives from 194 World Health Organization member states will meet virtually for the 73rd Annual World Health Assembly. With coronavirus pandemic taking center stage, questions will be raised over how the virus has infected more than 4.7 million and has killed more than 315,000. The European Union will lead the international call, along with the UK, Australia and New Zealand, for an inquiry. The WHO said the organization will remain focused on working to lead the overall response and solutions for the pandemic. Each year, countries come together at the Assembly to review the work of the UN's health agency and to set its priorities for the upcoming year. The U.S. Air Force has successfully launched its Atlas V rocket, carrying an X-37B spaceplane for a secretive mission. The rocket was launched from Cape Canaveral a day after bad weather halted plans for a Saturday launch. The aircraft, also known as an orbital test vehicle, will deploy a satellite into orbit and also test power beaming technology. This is the plane's 6th mission in space. X-37B is a classified program and very little is known about it, but the Pentagon said it would test the effect of radiation on seeds and other materials. The launch was dedicated to frontline workers and those affected by the coronavirus pandemic. I'll be back after the break with business news. Stay tuned. Japan has fallen into recession as the financial toll of the coronavirus continues to escalate. The country's economy shrank 3.5% in the first quarter of 2020, its biggest slump since 2015. The figure followed a 7.3% contraction during October to December, confirming a second consecutive quarter of decline. Japan introduced a state of emergency in April, severely affecting supply chains and businesses in the trade-reliant nation. Economists forecast that the economy will shrink 22% during April to June, which will mark its biggest decline on record. Japan announced a record over $1 trillion stimulus package to cushion its economy against the economic fallout of COVID-19. Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell says the U.S. economy can collapse by 20 to 30% this quarter due to the COVID-19 lockdown. Powell said the U.S. economic recovery may stretch deep into next year, and a full comeback may depend on a COVID-19 vaccine. Powell said unemployment in the U.S. can peak at 20 to 25%, a level not seen since the 1930s. Powell said he is confident, though, that the country's economy will avoid another depression. Powell said the economy will need more government spending to support workers and businesses to allow for a recovery. European stock markets have gained steam on hopes of economic revival as many countries lift restrictions. Investor confidence is rising cautiously despite fears of a second wave of coronavirus cases. Frankfurt's DAX has gained nearly 3%. The CAC 40 in Paris and London's FTSE 100 are trading over 2% higher. In Asia, Hong Kong's Hang Seng led the gains, closing over 0.5% higher. Seoul's Kospi and Japan's Nikkei 225 also gained nearly 0.5%, while the Shanghai Composite rose a fraction. Meanwhile, international benchmark Brent crude oil price has gained over 5%. Time now to find out what the weather is like around the world. For the latest updates on these and other stories, you can always follow us on our social media at Indus.News. Thanks for watching.